This is Algebra 2 with Trig, working on 3B.2b, the second day that we're working with least common multiples, or which is the same thing as an LCD, by the way. LCD is a type of least common multiple. So, the zero step, before you do anything, you should factor each of the polynomials. And every factor must be represented once for your least common multiple. If there's a repeat, we're going to take the highest degree. And at the moment, I'm not sure what goes into these silly blanks. So we'll move on and we'll practice and see if we can come up with words that go into those blanks. So, if your denominators are both threes, what's the smallest number 3 goes into? 3 is the smallest number 3 goes into, so it's just 3. Same thing for x. They both have the same exponent, just like the 3's did. They both had a 1 for an exponent. You're not going to bring in twice as many of them. You're not going to bring in the product of them. You're just going to bring, as a least common multiple, just x. Even if it's a binomial, the exponents are the same. It's going to be x plus 2. Now it gets a little bit more complicated. We could consider the 9 to be 3 squared. Maybe that helps you. Now you notice that the bases are the same, so you need to take the larger exponent. So you're going to take 3 squared. Otherwise, you're looking at the 3 and the 9. And what number does 3 and 9 go into? 3 and 9, yes, they go into 27 because that's the... So because the exponent's larger, we're going to take 3 squared, which we could call 9. What's the smallest number 3 and 9 go into? 9 is the smallest number 3 and 9 goes into. Take the larger exponent. So x plus 2 squared. Here we don't have any factors the same. So what's the smallest number 3 and 2 both go into? It's not 1. 1 is the smallest factor that goes into both of these. What's the smallest number that these go into? These are factors. 6 is the smallest number these go into.
What do they both multiply to? That is the smallest number.
So here we're working with the 6 and the 4. So what number does 6 and 4, what's the smallest number 6 and 4 go into? Now I'm noticing that this is x plus 1 squared. This is a matching factor. So we're going to take the one with the larger exponent. Here's another factor. It's not even represented in this one, but we have to bring it along anyway. It would be the larger exponent, first power compared to the 0 power. Let's take a look at this one. What do we do first? We're going to factor out the 5. And that leaves us with x squared minus 9. And I notice that x squared minus 9 can be factored also. That's the difference of two squares. We learned that before. So this would be considered prime factors. I factored it all the way down. Now we look at this one. I notice that all the numbers are relatively big. So I'm going to consider, is there a number that goes into all of these? 4 goes into all of those. So I'm going to factor the 4 out, and that leaves me x squared plus 6x plus 9. And this breaks apart to x plus 3, x plus 3. Those are your factors of breaking down x squared plus 6x plus 9.
I thought you couldn't break it down when
So we're looking at 5 and 4. The smallest number 5 and 4 goes into. I notice that this has a pair of x plus 3's, so you could consider that x plus 3 squared. I take my larger exponent, so I need to take x plus 3 squared. X minus 3 is not included, but it's included here, so I'm going to take my x minus 3. I have to take every factor, and if they share a factor, I'm going to take the larger exponent. So now pause the video, work through these next two, and start it up, and I'll walk you through it. So when we look at the 5x cubed, there's nothing that we can do in terms of factoring apart the 5x cubed. But here we can factor the 5x and the x to make it, we can factor out the 5x, so it's x minus 3.
Wait, wouldn't it be 2x?
You are correct. That would be 2x. So our terms that are the same here, the 5's. The other terms that are the same, the x's, you take the larger exponent. Then you can consider the 2x minus 3 to be to the first power. And this kind of has a 2x minus 3 to the no power because it's not even there. So the larger exponent would be 2x minus 3. For our last one, we can factor out the 8. That leaves us x minus 2. And in this side, we can factor a 12 out of this. And this trinomial can be factored again. Is there a number that multiplies to be negative 6 and adds to be 1? We have x and x to make x squared. Negative 2 and a positive 3 gives us a positive 1 and multiplies to be negative 6. So I'm looking at 8 and 12. We don't want to multiply those together. We want to look at what is the smallest number 8 and 12 goes into. And we're back here to 12 and 8. They're going to go into 24. They both have an x minus 2, so I would bring that, the same exponent. And we have to bring our last factor. So those would be our LCD, would be our least common least common denominators, if these were denominators. We call these the least common multiple, LCM. And LCD, they stand for the same thing. This depends how you use them in a sentence.